No one knows Melbourne better than my next guest. No one knows what 8 years of Daniel Andrews has done to his hometown either. He's one of the country's leading restaurateurs, and during the pandemic, he was an outspoken critic of the Premier's draconian leadership style, earning him a legion of support amongst Victorians who felt they were voiceless. On election eve, I'm delighted to say Chris Lucas joins me now. Chris, the Lord Mayor Sally Capp says COVID was good for Melbourne. You run a business. Was it good for you?
Well, it certainly wasn't good for me, and it certainly wasn't good for Melbourne or for our industry. You know, today, Peter, we're a shadow of the industry that we were before COVID. I mean, 2 years of lockdown. It not just financially, obviously, caused so much trauma for us, but it has emotionally left many, many scars on this city. And I think that, look, knowing Sally, I think she'll regret what she said, because her comments today were, at the very least, insensitive. And I'm sure that, knowing the person that she is, she will look back on those comments, hopefully put them back into some context, maybe apologise, maybe withdraw those comments, because she was here during those 2 years. She knows how bad it was. And she also knows, and there's no sugarcoating it, while the city is trying to rebuild, we can't just keep on glossing over what has happened. And what has happened has left deep, indelible scars, especially mentally, psychologically on our city, our small businesses, the people that work and live in our city, my workers. They're still carrying very, very deep mental scars about what happened. And we need to be sensitive, and our leaders need to really understand, instead of trying to spin it and sugarcoat it, they need to actually own up to it. And I think we should talk about it more openly, because I think over the next few years, Peter, as the truth comes out about what happened over the last 2 years, I think our leaders are going to have to fess up and say that mistakes were made, and that until we get that level of honesty, I don't think we can genuinely rebuild.
Tomorrow's election day. You get your finger on the pulse. You talk to a lot of people. Give us your sense of the mood.
I think it's apprehensive. I know that you know, many people are probably more initiated or interested in what's happening with this election than I've ever seen before. And I think that's, again, a reflection of what's happened over the last few years. And people, generally speaking, I think over the years have never really taken too much notice of elections, unless they're sort of, you know, they're sort of politically motivated. But I think today, from what I'm hearing, everyone today, I know in Melbourne here, we had a very busy lunch in all my restaurants, and the general conversation around the tables was what's going to happen tomorrow, because it's a bit of a line in the sand moment, I think, for the state, I think for our city, and you know, I think it's a very important moment in our history, to be honest.
Cos Samaras, he's a Labor pollster, or Labor-connected pollster. He runs a company called Red Bridge Polling, does the Herald Sun's polling. He's tweeted this, and I'll read it out. It says, reports across pre-polls are rough for Labor, the worst I have experienced. That said, Saturday's news poll should reflect that. P.S. If you're on this platform and don't know why, go out to a pre-poll centre and watch. We've got massive numbers of pre-poll votes in. A Labor person said to me today, the second best outcome would be a Labor win. The best outcome would be a Labor win and the Premier to lose his seat. That's telling.
Look, I think it is. Look, I'm not a person to really get involved in the to and fro of politics. What I can tell Cos Samaras and other people who, I guess, are involved in the political gamesmanship of Victoria is that people are sick and tired of the spin. They're sick and tired of the divisive nature of our government. I've always said that for the last 2 years. I think people are sick of the lack of ownership of the mistakes that were made. I think in many cases, it would have been good to actually see our government acknowledge the mistakes, apologise, so that we can all move on. And I think that's really a sad indictment on the current state of politics. And I just hope tomorrow that, you know, I think there is a mood for change. Again, I'm not a political person. I'm just a small businessman. But at the end of the day, I really do feel that there is a mood for change. I think we do need to start afresh. And more importantly, Peter, you know as much as I do, but you know, we've lived it every day. You know, the damage that was done, we need to heal. We need leadership to recognise the mistakes that were made.
We need to turn a page.
We need the community to be brought back together. We need positive, engaging leadership. We need to heal, and what we don't need is divisive, combative leadership. What we need is true, genuine leadership that will bring this community back together so we can move on.
Well, I'm pleased to report behind you, you've got a pretty busy restaurant, so I'll let you get back to it. Chris Lucas, appreciate your time on election eve, and I'll catch up with you afterwards when we know the vote and how it's all gone.